All right. So, somebody at a DOT, aka Paul, um, asked me a question about some survey coding, and I could answer the question probably with just a yes or no, but I'm going to take this as an opportunity to cover something else and eventually get around to answering the question. Um, and really, his question was to about closing these little gaps. So, what what his thought process was is that to close these gaps, what you can do is, let me turn on the codes. This is the start of a line here, and it goes around and kind of ends here, and obviously it needs to basically close on that. So the one way to do it that he said, seems like a natural way to do it, is to go in here and edit this code so that it has a link code to close. And it does. It closes that. But then it has this weird kink in it. So his next thought was, I'm just going to undo this. His next thought was, okay, well, can I just take the coordinate values of of this point here, which let me turn the point numbers on, of this point number 117, and just copy and paste them into the point number 133. So that looks like this. I'm just going to go to the field book here and go to all points, and then just go to the details, call up the details pane, survey details, and this is all sorting in numerical order here, and kind of go down here to 133. Oops, wrong way. So 133 has these coordinate values, which you can see the little indicator there, and that's turned on. I have basically viewed the locator on. So can he just take the coordinates in 117? Just kind of do this. Let's slide this down. So can he take the coordinates that are in 117 here on the northing and easting, and just copy this and go down to 133 and just paste that in there, and you'll see that when I kind of enter that, it does shift that over. And then go to, let's say, 117, go to the northing, copy that, 133, paste that in there. And sure enough, it does. So you could do that. But now his question was, and this is kind of the nature of the ruling of the software, is this data, if you really kind of look at this data, it was observational data. So it was actually built by, if I look at one of these lines, it would basically was built by zenith angles, slope distances, turning deflection angles from a backside. So occupied point, backside, turn angle, to the side shots. So when that does that, and you physically move a point, let me just kind of do another little example here. If I took this point and moved it, and this is where I really wanted to kind of take this as a little illustration. Normally, you should be able to take the graphical manipulator, and if you hover over it, it should allow you to move that point. So I'm taking this point. If I hover over this, notice how it shows the attributes. It really shouldn't do that. What it should do, and this worked good up until 2020 R1, then it broke. I don't know if it broke in 2020 R2, but it was definitely broke in 2020 R3, and then also in 2021 versions. And 2022 is a whole nother story. You don't even get these graphical manipulators, so that's something I actually have to log this week. But normally, what you should be able to do is if you select a point and you hover over it, if you see these attributes, that means it's not really able to be moved. Now, normally, what you should do in 2020 R1, where it was working, it wouldn't give you these attributes. It would say move, and it would allow you to select the graphical manipulator. It would, I always use the example, it's like flypaper. You click on the graphical manipulator, it sticks to your mouse, and then you move it. So in 2020 R1, 2020 R3, it broke so that it's dependent on the zoom level. So if I zoom way out and hover over this, you'll see the move. So now at this stage, I could select this, and I'm now in sort of move mode of this point. So if I go and and I want to place it somewhere, it then moves over there. So normally you should be able to use the graphical manipulator on a point and move, but it doesn't work here. It only works at certain zoom levels. And of course, if you're working in an area like this and you have so much data, it's useless. You can't use the graphical manipulator to move something. So that's just basically broken. I had hoped that they fixed that in 2022, and I have to say, from my initial testing, it actually looks like it got worse. And the graphical manipulators are now just completely gone. Not sure if that was, by design, since they didn't work. They just are gone. I'm not sure what the problem is. I have to look into that. So normally, what you'd be able to do is basically move this over into the position. Now, again, I want to take this as a little bit of an educational thing. Realize that when you're working in OpenRoads Survey, you can select the line, but you are not moving the line. The lines are ruled to the points. So what you have to do, and you can see, you could select the point. It's only the point that has the manipulator, and it has the little bit of basically the textual manipulator there that you could edit. And normally you'd be able to pick the textual manipulator, but again, it only works at certain zoom levels to where you can pick that textual manipulator and then allow you to change it here. So again, that's kind of a problem. That is basically broken. So anyway, what you could do is when you would move a point, if you had to nudge something, like there was a little bit of an overlap, the face of curb kind of kicked out over the gutter line or something, and you just wanted to nudge it back, you can do that. Normally you could do that with the graphical manipulator, or you could, but again, you're doing the point. You're not moving the line, you're doing the point. So if you move the point, it moves the line with it. Now, the graphical manipulator part is broken, but that doesn't mean that you can't just, literally hold the mouse button down on that point and just drag it somewhere. I like the more formal way of like actually picking the graphical manipulator. Is more intentional, but you can't just sort of freestyle, just drag. But what happens when you do this, and this really just happens with observational data. If you're importing fixed point data, you don't have this issue. But when you're working with observational data and you move a point, and if I go and turn on the observations, the observation still thinks it's here. So if this survey were reprocessed, this point would slide back here. I call it reversion. So anytime you're working with observational data, and you can see here, and really the question, the question that Paul asked me was, if I just assign this coordinate to the coordinate of the point that I wanted to go to, so you can actually see there's 2 points on top of each other, 117 and 133. If I just reassign coordinates to 117, will it just, or 133 to be the same as 117? Now they're coincident. Would it negate this, observational memory? The answer is no, it does not. So using the close works, puts that kink in there. And when you do this coordinate swap here, which was actually a pretty intriguing idea when I read the question, it works, but you got to keep in mind that it's still holding that observational information there. Now, I talk about this in my training classes, that what you have to do in order to do this type of edit and have confidence that it's going to stay there is, what you have to do is in that data file, and this happens to be, and if I hover over this, you'll see that it's in day one. You could look in the attributes down there towards the bottom. It says the data file name is Zenday1 RW5. So in day one, what you have to do is, when you're doing these types of edits, you go to day one and look at its properties. And what you have to do is you have to set the process observational rules, which are true now. And that means it's every time you reprocess, it's going to, reprocess it based on the imported field file, the observational locations. You have to set this to false. Once that's set to false, then this would never revert, because these shots would never reprocess. So I don't personally see any downside in that, because you're going to be doing edits, little tweaks, you're moving stuff all the time anyway. So I have not experienced any real downside in turning off the processing rules. I don't do it wholesale. I mean, you could do it to every imported day, every imported field file. I tend to be a little more selective and only do it to the ones where I'm actually modifying the data like that. If you're doing a lot of editing, go ahead and just, go into the survey details and, select them all, and you could click in the far left column, and then you could just change the processing rules to false on all of them if you want to. But so getting back to this, and I do kind of have a little different direction here. Neither of these, whether you're going to use the close, you don't like the kink, okay, fine. If you change these coordinate values, yes, visually it will kind of clear itself up, but that observational rule is still there. Again, this doesn't apply if you're using fixed point data, so it's only really works with it's only applicable to observational data. But again, I just want to reiterate, you're not moving the line, you're moving the points. The line work is all ruled to the point. So you're always in survey focusing on the point edits. You're not editing line work. The line work is ruled and mapped to the points, the survey shots. Okay, so let me just take this one step further. Let me kind of undo some of this and get it back to where it was. Kind of tweak that around. Okay, so that's basically where that was. I'm going to go ahead and turn off these observations. Okay, so now really the answer to this right here, in this is maybe kind of technical in terms of being subtly technical, is if you really look at what occurred here, and if I just turn off this information, just looking at the line work, there probably was some curvature in here, but let's just kind of keep our focus here. Probably what happened is this was the start of a line. Okay, so they started here and they went around this island. Okay, went around this little landscape island, And then they kind of came back here. Now they should have used some PCs and PTs. Again, to just kind of ignore that for now. But what it looks like they did is they attempted to close, take a last shot on the location where they started. Now, you just shouldn't do that. That there's just, it's just not a good practice in the field. You don't try to, close something by moving back onto the same initial first shot. You're never ever going to get that. So there's always going to, have this kind of a problem. So really, and the people, whoever surveyed this, that's what they did. They did this quite a bit on this particular survey. So to me, the answer really is the best technical answer is this point shouldn't even exist. So I would end up just deleting this point. I mean, the same goes for this one. And really what should have happened is it should have been collected this way. And then at this point should have been had a close on it, because that's really what the intention was. They came around here, they are shooting along at a certain incremental distance, and then they go, okay, I see, in my sights, I know where I'm going. I'm about ready to kind of get back on to where I started. Well, that's the close code. So you don't go the distance and try to manually do it. You just let the software do that. So this is point number 132. So again, I'm going to go to the points here. I'm going to go to the details. And really the way that you should fix this is, again, let's tweak this. Oops. It's over here. Turn on my name. So this is 132. Is to go to 132 here and add a linking code to close. And that's really the best way, the cleanest way to do that. You wouldn't close from here to here. That's just goofy, because this shot really is intended to be the same as this shot. 116 was really supposed to be 100. So again, on this here, you're doing the point. You're not doing anything on the line. Just go ahead and delete that point. And then on this shot here, 115, you would just add that linking code to go ahead and close that. And that's really how this should be cleaned up. I mean, it does bring up another issue of when you have curvature here. This should be curves. Geez, you don't ever start collecting. Don't do a start code on the PC and go this way. If you're going to do start on the PC, go this way. In this case, go clockwise. You don't start on a PC and a start code and go tangent and try to end on a curve coming in there. The software just can't even do that. So again, as a practice on doing islands or medians, anything with curvature, don't start on a PC and go towards the tangent. Go start on a PC and go towards the curve. That the software can accommodate that in the coding. It can't do that. If you start on a tangent like this and head tangent, down the tangent, down the straight, you can't come back in here and curve. I could put a PC on this, but I can't put a PT here and end off in a PT. So that's just, some subtleties in terms of collection. So just kind of recap here, the answer was, the question really was, if I don't want that little jog and I want to just change the coordinate values, does it retain that observational rule? Yes. You can't get rid of that. I don't know any way to kind of remove that rule and strip that rule. In my opinion, when you move a point like that, it should automatically strip that rule. That's what it does in all the other areas of the software. It strips that rule and rewrites the rule. Does it remember the rule? Yes. The answer would be to turn off the processing for that day. But really, to me, the real answer in this particular area is that point should be deleted. And that rule does not exist anymore because you've deleted the point and the rule. And this should really just be closed out from here, because that point really was meant to be coincident with 117. Should have never been shot. Should have been come back here and closed. And again, as a recap, these textual manipulators, they're broken. They're just broken in 2020 R3, 2021, And from what I've been testing, they're broken in 2022. Hopefully 2022 R2 they're fixed, but sorry, my hopes aren't too high right now. But you could still just grab the point, and just drag it if you needed to. Just make sure you're using the point. Just drag it to where you need it to go. Again, the point, the line will be ruled to that. So I think I've rambled long enough. Hopefully that helps someone.